Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Google Games Chat, number 8, I believe. I am your interim host, Colt McCandless, filling in for Todd Kerpelman, who is out fighting a bear. With me, as always, we have the unstoppable, unbreakable Wolf Dobson, who recently just finished fighting a bear and has the scars on his elbow to prove it. Wolf, you want to show it off?
I broke my elbow.
It's pretty nice.
I fell down all by myself. It was terrible.
It was great to see, though. Always joining us as well is John McCutcheon, the great flannel power. Without his flannel today, so anyone who wants to take his wallet.
I'm wearing the flannel.
It's
you just can't see it.
It's tattooed on your skin.
Yes.
And joining us today as a special guest from all the way from the pit of the Chrome engineering cycle is Vincent Scheib. How you doing, Vince?
Howdy. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Vince, can you tell the viewers on the internet a little bit more about what you do on Chrome and why you would bless us with your presence today?
Sure. I work on Chrome. I'm an engineer. I have a background in game development, so I worked on game engines before, and I joined Chrome to help make it a better platform for games. So, for example, over the last year, I've been working on the full screen support. Web pages can go full screen. That's important for games. And also pointer lock or mouse lock, the ability to have your mouse cursor be used in games such as first-person shooters, where your mouse cursor goes away and instead you can use it to control the game view. Things like that.
Fantastic. Full screen support, by the way, really one of my favorite features coming from games. It's fantastic to see these little experiences, which are usually iframed, go full screen. It makes Chrome definitely a bigger competitor in the console gaming market for the web, I guess is the right terms we should be using. Awesome. So let's get into it today. We don't have a lot of time since apparently the bear apocalypse is upon us soon. So we're going to get right into it. We've got a great thing to talk about today. Jimmy, can you go ahead and roll the video for us? We have found sometime this month, Lara Croft will be launching for native client. This is a fantastic endeavor that we'll see moving forward. Jimmy, you're waiting on me? I don't know. We can cut some of this out in post, I think. I don't know. So through the
whenever people say that never happens.
That never happens?
Never.
We'll do it live. Through the Core Online site, Lara Croft is actually going to be running through native client. This is fantastic because this is a full console game originally shipped on the Xbox 360, running in your browser with Chrome at full resolution, full speed, with all the bells and whistles. The developer has gone a long way out of their way to actually make this web-enabled. They very much turned the level experiences into episodic content so that you can come and go as you please and get a chance to experience the game in a different sort of way. As you can see here, the full graphics capacity comes through and translates right into the web page, as well as controls, mouse lock, full screen support, and all the other awesome bells and whistles that you can only get with the Chrome web browser and native client technologies. So the question that I have for the guys on the panel is, what were some of the things that had to happen to make Lara Croft in the web browser a success? John, what kind of things are they doing with native client?
Well, they're taking an existing game that shipped on the 360 and the PS3, and through the power of native client, they're able to compile it into an executable that is safe to run on the web. It's amazing.
And they get full access to the GPU at that point, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're calling directly into OpenGL, just like you would a native desktop application, and are able to use their unmodified C++ source code directly. Interesting.
Now, moving from Xbox 360 to the web, what are some of the things that developers have to worry about when making that transition?
So you have to worry about how do you access your content, because you don't have a disk anymore. You have to make sure that the content is streamed into the game engine.
Interesting. And Vince, I noticed that these guys are actually using full screen support and mouse lock. What are some of the things that developers have to take into account when using these features? Like, obviously, if they tab away, or if, is there any security or privacy concerns about this?
So there's not too much. A lot of this is taken care of for them by the browser. The APIs are exposed to native client, similarly to how they're exposed to JavaScript for JavaScript-based applications, but they are a little bit different. For example, with mouse lock, which is the name of the API that we expose to native client, we expose a little bit more control than we do to the JavaScript API. On the open web and JavaScript, if you alt-tab away, or if a window pops up from another application that takes away your attention, we automatically in the browser release the mouse lock and give you back your system cursor, because you need to be able to use your computer when that happens, right? Now, in a native application, that's not guaranteed to happen. So in native games that people make. It's easy to make an application that can cause a poor experience for an end user. So in Chrome, we try to make sure that none of that happens. In native client, we give a little bit more control. So for example, some of the situations that would release the mouse pointer don't trigger because we expect those applications to have a little bit more attention driven to them, and because they're being distributed not just via the open web but through the Chrome Web Store, there's more of a line of responsibility from the developer to the user, as opposed to like the open web having just advertisements, for example. You wouldn't want an ad on a web page disturbing your experience as much. But it's pretty straightforward. Full screen, they can just ask to enter full screen. The application goes full screen for them. It's pretty straightforward.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned the difference between distributing a hosted application versus a packaged application. Is there any manifest properties or any permissions that the user has to agree with that's different between the two?
I don't believe, and I could be wrong on this because mostly I've been focusing on the open web with JavaScript APIs versus the native client ones, but I believe the native client APIs are available without manifest permission requirements. I believe that they are just there as an API, and developers can use them directly without any special permission request.
That's cool. Now, Wolf, I know that you're a big fan of this particular version of Lara Croft, Guardian of Light.
Yeah, I think it's a great choice to be on the web like this because it's really basically a bunch of puzzles that are broken up as levels, and each time you go through, it's also a co-op game. And I actually haven't seen this implementation, the web implementation. The co-op part would be perfect for playing on the web with your friends.
Yeah.
And going back to a point that you made a long time ago in previous episodes of this fine show.
This upstanding
this beacon of well, anyway.
of sanity on the web.
Yes. Yeah. That being able to be like, dude, I need your help for this.
Mm-hmm.
You can pop over. I mean, it does actually play. It's one guy throws spears and Laura can shoot. And then the spears actually stairs that Laura can climb up and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like it's very much a game where you have to work together to solve a problem. And that's what the web is about. People working together and flaming each other.
I think we should see more of the working together and less of the flaming each other.
And cats.
Mostly cats. Expect to see Lara Croft Guardian of Light go live a little bit later this month so that everyone has a chance to play it. And please send us feedback. We'd love to hear more about how you embrace this technology and what's good and what's bad. So with that, I don't think we have any medium roaming topics before we get to 5 for 5. Anything anyone want to chat about real quick?
No.
No? You want to talk about how you broke your elbow?
No.
Vince, do you want?
I
think we do, actually.
Yeah, so I was accompanying my daughter to a skate park in here on the peninsula. Mm-hmm. And she was wearing all of her protective safety gear. She was wearing her helmet, she had her wrist guard, she had her knee pads, all that stuff. And it was really hot this weekend, and so she was taking a break sitting in the overhang where it was shady, and I climbed down to be in the basin with her. And it's really slippery down there, as I discovered. And when I fell and landed on my hand, and I was trying to get my hand out of the way because I was like, oh God, I'm going to break my wrist. I tried to get my hand out of the way, and I didn't quite, and I landed on it anyway, and it hurt a lot. So they didn't give me a cast because it turns out that your elbow will lock up and not be usable if you immobilize it for very long. So instead, I'm supposed to just sort of dangle it awkwardly for a few weeks until it stops hurting.
That sounds like an engineering bug. Is there somewhere we can file a bug report on that type of elbow?
I was deeply disturbed that they did not offer me an adamantium skeleton to replace it because I think that would be better.
Well, it is open enrollment right now, so you can sign up for that health plan.
If I just switch health plans, I can finally.
Skeleton.
I think that health plan has some other problems, though. I think they do a lot of unnecessary extra procedures. If my knowledge of the X-Men.
If you want superpowers.
Sometimes.
If you want an omelet, you got to break some eggs, right?
Yeah.
And Vince is embracing the full month of November with a Mo stash. Is this accurate, or can we officially announce this? I know there was some debate on whether
I don't know if it's official.
It's not,
but it's November.
Did we just leak an announcement?
I don't typically have a mustache.
And so just this month.
It is November.
It is November.
I mean, that's just how things are. I've noticed a lot of mustaches around the campus. There's a lot of people.
So, John, do you believe in coincidences?
No. No, I don't.
We'll see how it
I think
goes.
this mustache is a coincidence, Vince. And I think you need to fess up.
The only thing is, this just means each GDL for this week is going to get like progressively hairier as we go along.
That should be our new motto for Google Games Chat.
Progressively hairier, yes.
Fantastic. With that, let's get into our 5 for 5. Wolf, do you want to do the graphic for us again? Can you do that with your wrist?
5, 4, ow, 5.
Topic number 1. Since this is a very Chrome-heavy and web gaming-heavy episode, our 5 for 5 topics will list mostly on the web technology. So number 1, what 2 games would you love to be able to play on the web? And we are going to start with our special guest, Vince.
I'm going to start off with a game I've been playing recently, Faster Than Light. So FTL, it's a great game. It's self-described as a space rogue-like. It's an indie game. I think it's about $10 or so. And so in this game, if you haven't seen it yet, you get a top-down view of a spaceship, and you see the interior. You have a bunch of rooms and systems, your shield systems, your engines, and your weapon systems, and you have crew. And you basically hop around the star system, and you're trying to find additional resources and get to a goal. There's a little bit of a larger plot. And then you get into a lot of battles with other ships, and you control your crew members. You tell them to go here or there. You pick what weapons you want to use. You fight the other ships. And for the most part, it's 2D graphics. They use a little bit of parallaxing and things like that, but it's not really heavy on the graphics needs. And I have to play it on a native download on my Windows machine, and it frustrates me because this game would be perfect for the web. There's no reason this game couldn't run in just HTML5. It wouldn't even be very taxing at all. And and it's unfortunate because I want to play while I'm at work instead of doing work. That would be great.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to. I'm compiling.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, compiling. You can pause the game at any time. So it's a great thing. You could just have it always up, and
I can pause work at any time.
You could exactly. You could just alternate back and forth. So it's a great kind of game, and I don't want to install it on my work computer because security is a big deal here at work. We have a lot of stuff we don't want. You never know what's happening when you install some random game. An indie developer, I'm sure that they're well intentioned, but who knows, right? And they could be compromised. You never know. You never know. When you're installing things off the internet, what's going to happen, and I trust a website a lot more. So I wish that game was implemented in HTML5. It would be great. I'd love to play it.
Awesome. Do you have a number 2?
Number 2. Well, let's see. The other game I've been playing recently is Dark Souls, and
but we should just turn this podcast into
Dark Souls.
Into the Dark Souls podcast.
Dark Soul.
So I'm very happy. I just got into a new game. Took me a little while. I didn't have a lot of time. I wasn't putting a lot of time on Dark Souls, but I just got to a new game. Very exciting. Dark Souls, it's great, but I go to play it every now and then. I feel like I need a lot of time. Like I have to want to go to the living room, spin up the Xbox, wait a couple minutes for the thing to boot. Show me the Havoc logo again, and just sit and wait on it. And it's great, right? But again, it's the kind of thing where, hey, I'm not always in my living room. When I have time, I could be playing this game. Could we pull it off with the graphics? Yeah, I think so. We just saw Lara Croft earlier.
Absolutely.
Comparable graphics fidelity.
Especially since Havoc has already been ported over to native client. We announced that at GDC this year.
So I think, it's within range, right? So, here I've got 2 examples. One, very lightweight game. Absolutely no excuse that FTL or something like that couldn't have been implemented with...
We'll call them and ask them.
We could.
If you're the developer FTL, this is the 3rd episode we've mentioned your
Oh,
title.
excellent. Yeah, sorry about that.
Now you have to port.
Yeah, you have to port. John, top 2.
Right. Well, I totally agree about FTL. I think that
we're also going to have the FTL GDL. Hey, I like that.
But the show's going to be about FTL and Dark Souls from now on.
This is what happened.
And Todd playing Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly.
FTL, I completely agree. It is a game where the graphics are of the right level for the web, and the experience is perfect because you can just pause it. It would be great if I could be on one machine, be kind of midway through a run, pause the game, and then load it up on another screen and just continue on. I mean, that would be incredible. I love that game. It would be awesome.
Game number 2.
Mario.
The traditional.
I want 2D Mario.
There's Infinite Mario. They made
Sure.
it in Java, where you don't even ever have to stop and jump
but
on
I
the
want
flag.
a Nintendo Miyamoto-made Mario that I can just play on the web anytime.
I like it. Wolf, top 2.
I have Top Mini, which is board games. I want more board games on the web. I want more board games on multiple screens. I have a Nexus 7. It's one of my favorite gaming devices ever. I want to have the gaming device. I want to have my Nexus 7 with my hand, and I want the screen across from me. I want never to shuffle again.
Oh, cool.
This is what I want.
So you're a big board game fan outside of the digital realm,
Absolutely.
or as we say, IRL.
And if you have a hangout in real life, it's a hurl.
Now, are there any two particular board games that you think would be best to bring to the web?
I have to admit that I have a fondness for old school miniature kind of stuff, and there have been. There are miniature, like Warhammer 40,000 things like, or 40K, excuse me. Implementations that you can play, and they've got the MMO and all the rest of that stuff. But I really like moving miniatures around. All right, I'm sorry about the miniatures.
Last one, go.
Yeah, old school wooden ships and Iron Men. That's what I want to play.
Very
I want
cool.
to play Circus Imperium. I want to play.
Nice. We should get the Penny Arcade guys in. They had a really cool variation of a tabletop gaming that was using like lasers and mirrors that they had for a while. I love that blog post. Question number 2, once again, starting with Mr. Vince, who is a subject matter expert in this. Lots of hubbub over the past year or so about adding 3D to the web. What that means for the technology, what that means for content coming to the web as well. Probably one of the biggest criticisms over WebGL is the security concerns. This question actually has come up a couple different times, and we've sort of not had someone on the show to talk about it. Vince, what's the big security issues with WebGL? Why is this a problem? What's going on?
WebGL is great, right? 3D on the browser is amazingly impressive. A couple years ago, I wouldn't have believed you that we would be where we are today. But there's a lot of room to go, right? So right now, I don't know that security is a big issue. I don't know if it's the top issue. There's another big issue as well, which is blacklisting, which is related to it. So we have 3D on the web, but there are a lot of computers that can't run 3D on the web. Those video cards have to be blacklisted by Chrome, by Firefox, by multiple people out there trying to put 3D on the web end up blacklisting old drivers or older video cards because there are problems. And some of that is functionality. So, it just causes a crash for some reason or another. Some of it is also the potential risk for security. So why is security an issue? The GPU is a fundamental component of the computer, and it works via a GPU driver. The GPU driver runs at a very low level in the system. It has a lot of access. It is driven by content from a game, including programs that are called shader programs, and they are what fill in. Basically, they run for every single pixel. They can compute color and lighting and shading and geometry, and so that's a lot of information that's being handed over to a driver, including all the geometry and other data. And that driver, if it messes up, and it has an security error, an out-of-bounds error, something else, and it gets corrupted, and an attacker is able to gain control of the execution of code that with a privilege level of the driver, then they have a lot of access on the system. And so that's a problem because the driver is designed to accept a lot of data, including these programs that are supposed to run on the GPU. And so there's sort of a large attack surface there. And drivers are out of control of, for example, the browser vendors. So drivers are provided by Intel, by NVIDIA, by AMD, and users don't frequently update their drivers on a regular basis. So Chrome ships continuously, and it does so with no interaction needed from an end user. We just update Chrome, and that is one of the most significant contributions Chrome offers, is that it is very excellent from a security point of view. If there ever is an exploit, we can ship a patch incredibly fast, faster than that exploit can be taken advantage of. With drivers, the problem is that it's very difficult to get users to update the drivers. It's on a very slow update cycle, so that's a problem. So what do we do about this? In our implementation of WebGL, all the data that's passed to the GPU drivers goes through a sanitization and a filtering. We basically, for a couple reasons, but security being a big one, we look at all that data and we make sure that it conforms and is not going to disrupt a driver. But there is a possibility that it could go into a driver, which is other code, and cause security problems.
So you're actually like cleaning the display list as it goes through?
Yes. So simple things too. Like for example, you can render with indexed buffers, right? So you can have geometry and you can have an index buffer. The index buffer refers to data that you've already provided. What if you give me out of bounds index data? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen, right? So that's one thing that we must validate. When you give me data as a developer, before we pass that on to the GPU driver, we scrutinize that data, and we, for example, scrutinize all index data and make sure that it will be in bounds.
What about like a shader language?
Shader language goes through processing as well. There are several things that are processed there. Now, what you can't do is make it perfect. You cannot be perfect.
Well, you're going to have a halting problem if you're
Right.
yeah, I mean,
and not only that, even before you get to shader languages, even in a fixed function pipeline, you can deliver workloads to a GPU that are too significant. And this is not a security vulnerability so much as it is a nuisance. It is possible to trivially send, for example, if you use indirect textures and you fill them with random texture lookups that are not coherent, and you have a couple layers of those. You could do this with a fixed function pipeline, not even a shader. If you give that workload to a GPU, today's drivers will take that workload and say, great, let me go work on this triangle, and they'll start trying to rasterize it, and you'll completely thrash the texture cache. And it will be incredibly slow to render, and the system has nothing that it can do about it. So it can lock up, especially if you're on a lower powered system. And that's not a good experience to have on the open web, and that is not something that is reasonable to protect against.
So quick question follow-up with that. John, real quick, obviously some of these security processes that we put in place are going to cause performance concerns. I mean, analyzing vertex and index buffers is not a big thing. What should developers be doing to sort of either work around it, performance analyze it? What can they do?
Well, so there's a lot of good information online about how to optimize your title to be designed in such a way that you can sidestep a lot of these security checks. So if you're never changing an index buffer, it only gets verified once. And if you structure your vertex buffers in such a way that, like, again, the verification just happens once, and then after that, the verification is cached, and repeated draw calls are very fast.
And we have a great resource on gonacl.com, which is the native client developer website that lists a lot of these nuances about how to get great high-performance technologies out of web development, especially in the sandbox with the security clearance. Perfect timing there. So, question number 3. Yeah, we'll do this one. So, top 2 reasons why game developers should be making web games. So I'm not saying that we should just stop making console games. Obviously, FTL is doing good, and so is Dark Souls. Why should they be embracing the web?
Those are the only games there are, it turns out.
Yes, anywhere anymore.
Yes.
So what should game developers be doing to embrace the web and making games there? We're going to start with Wolf.
I want to answer that question. You're saying, what? No, the question actually is why. Why should they be making games?
Sounds good, yeah.
Not what should they be.
Absolutely. Let's do
and,
both.
And the why is distribution. Like, the number one problem you have as a game developer is getting other people to see it. And if...
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. His wife's calling. So is distribution, and which means that if you can get your game out in front of people and they can see it...
it's a good thing, right?
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You're the one cracking up.
And it's interrupt driven, no less. You can grab people's attention straight out of whatever they're talking about just to interrupt them to play a game. No, seriously, distribution is your biggest problem, which means getting on the web means that everyone can see it a single click. And even if you're eventually selling some kind of download that is the full game, letting them play it instantaneously, get them hooked, get them feel like, oh, I got to see where this goes. That comes down to making your game hooky, which I think is, it's a thing. Like in 2001, you could release a console game that had a really slow start, and people would just deal with it because, what am I going to do? Go outside, break my arm? No, you're going to stay inside where it's safe. No, you're going to stay inside and you're going to try to figure this out because you spent $50, $60 to get this game. Now you got to get all the good content up front, which means the good content should be on your webpage to get people to say, I want more.
So do you think that there is an avenue there? Because it sounds like there's a couple things in flight, right? Obviously, there's additional marketing benefits. There's distribution. There's also this big marketing thing called second screen experiences or single experience, multiple devices. So do you think the web plays a big part in that as well? Is there more potential there?
Yeah, I think there's a point where, if you're storing save games and things like that in the cloud, there's absolutely no reason why you can't pause the game, pull your phone out, and keep playing it on your way out to the car, and then as you're driving down 101, continuing to play it.
Of course, yeah.
Vince.
What? I only did that yesterday.
Saw him doing it.
What?
Once, I promise.
YOLO.
No,
officer, first time.
I got to get to level 10.
So, the reach is good too, right? The distribution. But it's not just that. It's like how fast you get to those users, right? So on my phone, I want to check out a game. Someone's like, hey, check out that game. It's great. I still have to like download it, install it, and like bring it up on my phone. It's kind of slow.
Well, you were talking about seeing the Havoc logo again. I mean, like one of the things that I think is actually a challenge in mobile gaming is, we're getting these engines, we're getting Unreal, we're getting all these things. The load times are really long.
Yeah.
And for me, that was always a problem I had with the PSP, was like spinning up the disc.
Yeah.
So I could, I was like, it's a mobile game, I want to play it right now. I gotta wait for it. And I get that sometimes with these games that have long load times before you get a game. It's like, no, it's mobile, I want to play now.
Mm-hmm. John, can we address that in the web? Do you think that reducing load times and getting high content games to the users is something we can do?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's completely
I feel like that question was a setup, man.
Well, I got to throw him softballs. He's wearing plaid and flannel.
No, he's not wearing flannel. That's why he's in
I
danger.
am wearing flannel. Yes, you
It has
can.
me building a hive.
Yeah.
He's wearing flannel everywhere, man.
No, of course. It's completely technically feasible to stream the content fast enough to the user. But what has to be done from the game developer's perspective is to structure their game in such a way that it can be launched with like a minimal set of data and fill that in as the player is actually playing the game.
Now, is that a small change or is that a big change?
It's a big change. It requires planning well ahead of time to structure your game, the level structure, so that while you're in one level, you can predictively be loading the next level, and as well, like just the launching of the game. Like, how do you go from I hit the web page to I'm playing as fast as possible? And what that comes down to is reducing the amount of data that you need to get to that initial playing experience.
Interesting. And now, Vince, you have a history in the games industry of writing graphics engine. How important is runtime streaming, load time, segmentation of assets? How important is that in that sort of ecosystem?
So, I mean, it's very important, but to me, it doesn't seem like it's as big. So, Gen 7, like the PS3, Xbox 360, so, I don't know, a Wikipedia page calls that Generation 7 of console hardware, right? So
Wikipedia is doing
Gen
wrong.
6, PS2s, you only saw a couple games that had massive world streaming, and they were awesome for it. The initial Jack and Daxter was fantastic. It was
This
like,
is
wow,
what Naughty
open
Dog
world.
does,
and
right?
yeah.
Is
That was like-
streaming. Run
that
backwards
was great,
in
right?
some of those games and see what happens.
In Gen 7, that was something everybody had to do, right? So everyone started putting that into their games. You got a lot of elevators and things like that, right? But it was good that a lot of these games, they didn't have the discrete levels anymore, and you could stream around. And now I think we see a continuation with that. Moving onto the web, it's very similar technologies.
I mean, they're putting elevators on the web?
Yes, elevators. Well, you have to get it through the tubes, and then it's like
So it's like Harry Potter elevators that go sideways.
You throw up a username page while you're secretly streaming the
Well,
content. preparing
isn't
for
the story
game.
with Jack and Daxter that the character would trip?
Yeah,
if
it'd
you
fall
ran,
down.
Yeah, if you ran too long in one direction.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah,
You'd just be
it's-
sitting there running and boom, and you're like, what? Why? All right, next question. So obviously this is a big question. We've got lots of technologies on coming up, right? Here at Google, we like to sort of push the envelope. We like to try to create the future rather than just embrace what we have, make things better. So with that, we've got Dart, we've got native client, we've got HTML5 on the cutting edge there. Is Flash still viable as a gaming technology for the web? What's its future? What's going on? I'm going to start with John.
Certainly, I mean, it's got a lot of users already, right? It's incredibly popular, so it's not going anywhere. But you can see that platforms, I mean, Android did have Flash, and now it doesn't have Flash. iPhone will never have Flash. With Windows 8, Flash is being reduced to whitelist only. So there are larger trends that are slowly making it harder and harder to experience Flash content. There's still so much Flash content out there and so many avenues to experience it that it's not going anywhere, but it's certainly something that if I were a Flash developer, I would start considering other alternatives.
And
So, I mean, the other thing I've noticed, I've seen some Flash developers on like a crossover where they're still using some of their initial Flash development toolchain tools, and then they've been building ways to export from those toolchains into HTML5 runtimes.
do you have examples of this?
Yes, sort of. I just have to bring it to mind. Okay, they did Pirates Love Daisies. What else did they do?
So this is the Easel.js,
Yeah,
Tween
exactly.
JS guys.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Certainly, in terms of like technical features, HTML5 is pretty much at parity. what
There's
you
a
can
there's
do.
I'll be the counter to that though, which is that Flash is a giant comfy couch. If you've used it a lot, like it, it's got it's got layers, it's got effects, it's got filters, it's got all these things.
It's the tools that are kind
And
of
an
surrounding it.
incredibly strong tool chain that allows you to get these things done quickly. And I think one of the challenges with HTML5 is finding that tool. One of the other things that Flash is really good at is it reached out to people who wouldn't normally have programmed, because it is not nearly as difficult as C or C++, and to try to get something up and running. You spend a lot of your time when you're building a C engine getting that first triangle out there. Like, thank goodness, that took me 6 weeks. With Flash, you draw a picture and you export it, and look, it's on the web. And and I think that's part of the reason why places like Newgrounds and Congregate and things like that have so much Flash content, is because it's an accessible technology. So the challenge I think for HTML5 is getting to that point of just crazy accessibility. We sort of have it in the sense that Chrome has this wonderful debugger built into it, and you can actually sit there and look at it. The debugger at some levels is fantastic.
Right, but it's not a content creation IDE.
No, it is absolutely not. And the actual Flash, there's both Flash Builder, which is the SKU of Eclipse, and there's the Flash Professional, I guess is what they're calling it now. The terms got really weird there for a little while. There's the whole Flex Builder versus Flash Builder and Flex Compiler, whatever. Anyway, I think it's all called Flash now, and Flex is gone or replaced by something else. But the having that both of those tools available and exporting one to the other, I think making an art tool chain for HTML5 that's more than just I sent you a ping is going to be really important.
Now, so do you think that the main thing there is, like Vince said, these hybrid development environments where you have a Flash IDE that is a very comfy couch, but exporting, isn't Adobe working on something like that? Aren't they picking up the HTML5 banner in their tool chain?
I don't work there, man.
I thought they announced something.
It's true.
I think you're right that the latest set of tools can export HTML5.
I think there's some room to go there, right? I don't think they're done. I don't but Adobe has clearly signaled that they are moving in that direction, and I'm pretty sure that developers can play with early portions of that tool chain now.
So here's a great question for that too. So John, you mentioned that there's just so much Flash content on the web. Tons of Flash portals still making very good money out there. What happens to those environments on operating systems like Windows 8, where if you want to run in WinRT mode, you have to be whitelisted? Is this a huge problem? I mean, it seems like a content issue.
Yes, it is a huge problem for them, for those portals, because slowly, as these other platforms gain market share, that chunk of the market will no longer be able to experience what they're offering. But as we're talking about, there's lots of transition plans to get out of that world and into an HTML5 world while keeping your content. So it's more a question of now we port the content to a platform that is accessible on every device and not the slowly shrinking set of devices that allow you to run Flash.
Well, it's definitely an interesting topic moving forward. You don't want you don't want it to go off?
I don't want it to go off.
Oh, it makes your ears hurt?
It makes me scared.
Well, Flash and HTML5 are going to continue to be dominant web game development technologies. Obviously, when you pair that in the tier ecosystem you get, like what experience you can get for the technology you have against native client and Dart, I think it's going to be a really amazing next couple of years. I think we're going to see some great stuff come out of it. And with that, let's kind of go into our final 5 for 5 topic, moving a little bit more away from the technical and back into the world of fun and games. What gaming gimmick do you hate that you would like to see removed from Gen 8 of games or the next big social mobile phase? And we are going to start with Mr. Vince.
Gaming gimmicks. What?
Because you looked confused. That's
I am confused. I'm like, oh man, I have to think of something
There's
fast.
so many.
Oh, gimmicks. Oh, I drawing a blank.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Wolf, hit us up with your awesomeness.
Escort missions.
You read my mind.
No, actually, I'll go the other way around, which is that I think escort missions are fun if the thing that you're escorting, or a person, or ship, or giant object, is fun to be with. And so I actually think it's it's stupid escort missions that make you angry. Escort missions where the sidekick is helpful, or reacting to what you're doing, emotionally involved in what you're doing. I think that's super.
So I think we talked about this on an older episode where we talked about Half-Life 2 and like Uncharted. Those are like those two series of games are games where you do have sidekicks that you have to escort or protect, but it feels great. It's awesome. But the problem is that there's so many of these missions where you have to replay the stage simply because like the computer made a mistake.
Aren't computers supposed to be our friends?
I was about to say, isn't there some thing of thought processing or intelligence that may be artificial that these games should
I
have
know.
to help with that?
You'd think you'd want that.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like to do like kind of raw, I mean, you're the AI guy, but like to do raw intelligence is like, it's pretty much impossible. You want these very like kind of safe, kind of primed behaviors that always make the experience good for you. I mean, one way you could do it is just make it so that it's impossible for your escort, the player that's like your sidekick or you're escorting, like to cause you to fail the mission.
Yeah, although then you do get in the situation. Well, there was one game I was playing where I realized my sidekicks were basically invincible, and then like whenever a fight broke out, I would just like cower,
Get behind them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like that guy can't die, and it was because he needed to deliver a line at the end of the thing, so he was invincible. So you could just stand behind him and wait and use him as a shield.
Well, we're losing.
So it seems like that would be the right strategy for Batman in the Justice League, right? Like, hey, I've got Superman and a bunch of other people that are just invincible.
Yeah, exactly. It's
You
like-
know,
Yeah.
why am I?
I wonder why they don't use Superman just as a, just everyone get behind Superman and we'll solve this problem. Like, why would you ever go on a mission by yourself at that point?
I thought there was a comic series about that. John, what other, besides escort missions, anything else?
Kind of.
He wants to get rid of quick save because it's for losers.
No, actually, can I throw in a gimmick that not necessarily a gimmick, but I wish that all games would allow me to just like stop playing at any point and walk away from them and come back exactly where I left off.
Especially across multiple screens?
Yes.
I like your
yes.
style.
I would like the ability to pause cutscenes.
Skip them.
No. I believe in watching. That's why Metal Gear Solid 2 took me, about 2 years. But I believe in watching all of my cutscenes. Actually, when I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2, my wife came in the middle, and I was deep in the middle of the cutscene. And she was asking me some question like, "Shh, cutscene," and she's been with me long enough to know that I'll talk to her as soon as the cutscene's over, and she goes away. And she comes back 20 minutes later and says, "Hey, you were supposed to like, shh, same cutscene."
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Vince, back to you, buddy.
All right. Yeah. So you know what? There are these games that set up a narrative environment. And they want you. They have these great moments that demo so well at E3 or other situations where basically when one of the game developers like on the game says like, "Hey, check out this awesome thing you can do in this emergent gameplay," and then they cause this to happen in the game. And they have a great sequence, right? And it looks great on video. It looks great when you're not playing the game. When I'm playing the game, I feel like, okay, here I am, I'm in this world, and I'm just going to, fumble around and try again and again with these things that don't work until I figure out what the game designer wanted me to do. Because when I do just the right thing, then that, triggers the awesome, sequence of things that falls through, and then it transitions into the cutscene, and it's like, there's, they have one or two specific things in mind that are like the solution. And I'm stuck just kind of, wandering around. So
I think we call that guess what the designer's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And it demos so well on video when you're just watching it. And these games,
This is basically the entire basis of point-and-click adventures for like a long time.
So this reminds me of my experience playing the original BioShock game like years ago.
Yeah.
It starts off and it's amazing. Like you're in this plane crash, it's in the sea, there's like fire everywhere, and I just start swimming and I hit an invisible wall. And I'm like, oh, this completely just broke the experience. But I think for a lot of players, they get lucky enough or they just happen to kind of follow the hints that it does feel like this seamless cinematic experience. But as soon as you like do the one thing that you're not supposed to do, it's like invisible wall.
Well, that comes down to like really, really aggressive user testing. especially games that have gone in development for a long time, they tend to get really hard and they tend to get kind of linear because it's like, oh, we're going to test this, and then we run here, and the guy jumps out, and I shoot him, and they walk here, and the guy gets out, shoot him, do the thing, and companies like Valve will have just new people play the game every single week as they're developing, and all right, you're going to play this build of the game. Oh yeah, you're gonna want that, and that's when you're playing like a really well polished game. You'll be like, man, if only I had a better weapon right now. Oh, hey, better weapon, cool. Yeah. And as you walk up, it's like, oh yeah, I can see the place that I'm going to as soon as I come up over the top. Reminds me that I need to get there later. All of this stuff is well polished, so you don't spend time wandering around. I really think that's like a polish problem, as well as a guess what designers thinking problem.
All good topics. So let's finish the episode on a high note, gentlemen. What are you playing this week? We will start with Wolf.
I was playing Falling Down. I'm actually exactly. No, actually, it takes a lot. I had to go to the doctor 4 times for this, and they didn't even give me a cast. I mean, they gave me a cast and they took it away. I've been playing. I've been trying to think what I've been playing. I've actually been longing to play New Vegas again, and I have to figure out what platform I'm going to play it on because I now have a lot of choices. So I want to go back and be bad in New Vegas. I'm gonna be the guys who aren't. Well, it's the Roman guys who aren't the new California Republic.
Got it.
I got to go be bad. I'm just going to start shooting people, and it's going to go downhill from there.
Whoa.
John.
I'm still playing XCOM. I'm loving it. It's a great game. So yeah.
Very good. Vince?
Cool. I've been playing FTL, and I just cycled to New Game on Dark Souls. I know I'm like way behind the boat on all this.
Well, you got to watch our show to know what happened.
What is it? Hey, 2011, your games are calling. No, actually, FTL came out this year.
That's it.
All right.
What are you playing?
I'm playing moderating the show right now, which is taking up most of my time.
It's a tough game.
It's a really tough game. It's why I'm bald. So, hey, thank you, Internet, so much for watching us. We appreciate your time. From everyone here at Google Games Chat, keep watching, keep playing. Let us know what we can do to help you. That's it for us. Thanks for your time.
Bye.